want to know how you can gross 1K to 2K a day while being local. Stick around and find out. I'll tell you just how to do that being a local car hauler. YouTube, good morning. It's your boy, the All-Star Transporter. I'm back again. Just got to my first destination and figured I'd drop a video, as for 2026 I'm trying to drop more frequent content, and any little time that I get I'm gonna do just that. I'm actually a little early for my runs today, so I got a few minutes to spare, and I'm gonna take that time to talk to y'all and just let y'all know how you can make some money out here doing this local car hauling stuff, as you can see in the beginning of the video. First, I'm gonna ask y'all to like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. You know, I'm sitting here in my truck and it dawned on me, I actually love doing this car hauling stuff. This local stuff, I love it. You know, it's not the easiest, but I do love it because it gets me home every night and it's decent money. You know, shout out to the guys that are OTR. Kudos to you guys. I could never do that. You know, I've been trucking almost 8 years now and I've never been over the road. Any type of trucking I've done, I've always been in my bed every night at the end of my shift. And I've made real good money. You know, some of you guys that's been following me along my journey for the last few years, you know, on and off, I've made quite a good amount of money in my trucking career and still do. And then today I figured, you know, I get a lot of comments on how it is doing what I do, a lot of criticism about my setup. So this will be the video where I pretty much touch on most of that stuff. I just backed into this dealership, and before I drop these cars, I'm gonna, you know, touch on those things because, one, I gotta do something I really don't like to do, which is I gotta touch a vehicle 2 times. I gotta unload it to get the vehicle behind it and then reload it. You know, typically I'll have my truck loaded based on the way I'm gonna do my drops, which in this case I got 2 drops and then 1 pick on the way back. Fortunately for me yesterday, you know, I was supposed to drop these cars off, but some other cars came in the area which I was not expecting, so it made more sense to just bring these back to the yard, drop them off early this morning, and then reload in the area, as opposed to driving an hour and a half to just drop 2 vehicles and then head back in an hour. So, you know, a little bit more physical work to get it done, but a lot of time saved and diesel saved doing it this way. But anyway, let me just get straight into it. You know, I'm one of those guys that I just like to get straight to the point when discussing something. And when it comes to this YouTube stuff, you know, everyone has their different way of going about their videos, but I like to just share information with my fellow drivers. You know, anyone that comments on my videos, they know I typically respond and try to get in depth. First things first, I just give a little background. I am a local car hauler in the Northeast. I work about, you know, 10 to 13 hours a day, and my truck gross anywhere between $1,000 to sometimes $3,000 in a day. You know, some of you might be like, whoa, that's not possible. You know, again, it's gross. So that's the money that it makes before all expenses. And being local, one of the advantages to that is my fuel expense is about $150 to $200 a day, depending on how I run. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, yes, the truck does gross between $1,000 to $3,000 on any given day, 5 days a week. And I'm gonna break that down for y'all so y'all can kind of get the idea of how that's done. And the money is not made on the price of the car. It's made on the quantity of the cars. So if you're following me, that means I got to move a lot of cars a day, which I do, in order to make that good gross. So the sweet spot in this local trucking thing is moving a lot of units on a day-to-day basis. So on average, me personally, I'm only speaking from my experience. I'm only speaking from what I know. Someone else could say otherwise. That's based on their experience. But me, myself, I move a minimum of 12 units a day. I have a G&W 600 Infinity trailer attached to a Dodge 5500. The equipment was bought brand new in 2024, going on 2 years with the equipment. And I typically get about 2 runs a day, try to fill the trailer up each run. So you could figure at a minimum of 12 cars. And in this area, each car is about $100 to move it locally. That's like the minimum cost to move a car from a dealer to an auction or from a dealer to another dealer around here. So you can already put the numbers together. These are just base numbers. I'm not saying exactly what I make. I'm not saying what the next guy make. I'm just giving you the minimums in this area. So think about that. 12 cars at a minimum of $100 a car a day. That's a base minimum of $1,200 a day. There are days like today I'm moving almost 20 units. And some of you might think, how is that possible? Being local, it is possible. My drive between locations is typically about an hour. An hour to the first stop, then an hour to drop off. That's 2 hours already on one run. Now, to load the truck, if all the cars are located close, just like you see some of these cars are just right here. If the vehicles are close, I can load this trailer. I got it down packed to a science. Now, I can have the trailer loaded within half hour. So you figure half hour to load, and it's quicker to unload, about 15 minutes for me to unload. So we're looking at a load and unload time of 45 minutes. Plus, let's say with traffic, 3 hours driving. So one run takes me less than 4 hours. Throw 2 runs in there, that's a 8-hour day to make, $1,200 gross? Now, there are days that I'm loaded up and down, which we love. And when you say up and down, it means the whole day I stay loaded. So to my first stop, I'm bringing cars, drop there, reload. That's another run back. And then to wherever else I'm going, I'm dropping and reloading again. So there are days that I'm getting 4 or 5 runs done, putting in 20 cars, to sometimes 25 cars. And we're talking, from just base number standpoint, which I'm not going to touch on exactly what I get for this truck per car, but just on a base number standpoint of $100 with 25 cars, days like that, it's a $2,500 gross. And to run the truck, it don't cost that much to run the truck locally. Ain't tolls over here for me because I'm right within the state. The diesel, I'm not burning too much diesel because, again, most of my stops are 50 to 60 miles apart. So when I tell guys, this is why I love the local car hauling thing. And for those that are over the road, me personally, I just can't justify being an OTR driver for a company. A lot of guys are out there weeks at a time just to make $1,000 a week take home after all expenses. You're making $1,000 a week, those guys are just driving most of the time, but that driving takes a lot of focus. It's a lot of strain on you mentally. When I look at the local trucking, the difference between that and OTR is the actual physical work that you put in. When you're local, you got to do more physical work. And me, I'm not scared of no physical work. I'd rather do some physical work and be home every night and make more money than being on the road for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever many weeks, just to make what? $1,200? You know what I mean? For instance, there's companies like Coca-Cola in my area. They're paying their drivers $33 an hour with benefits, with a pension. Those guys work 4 days every week, and they're bringing home $1,300 after all deductions. That's a no-brainer, you know, for a guy that's active. I mean, when I tell you, I've done that job, and those guys, they work. You got to break all the pallets down. You got to bring it into the store. You got to pack it out. You know, it ain't easy. Same thing with this car hauling thing. You know, I wear an Apple Watch every day that tracks my steps and tracks how much I walk. And on the days that I'm moving a lot of units, I do a lot of walking. I'm walking an average of 7 to 10 miles a day. You know, I don't feel it till I get home. I'm climbing, I'm strapping, I'm bending, you know, I'm touching freight. I got to load and unload all my vehicles. But I'd rather do that and make the kind of money I make. Because if I was to put the money I take home, my deposits every week, next to a guy that's OTR, and how much home time I get, how much time, you know, I get to see my daughter every night. I get to sleep with my wife in the bed every night. When I put all that up against a guy that's OTR, a lot of you getting into trucking might say, hey, well, I don't want to go OTR. Why would I go OTR if I can get a setup like this guy? You know what I mean? And another thing, I get a lot of criticism for the setup that I have, you know, running local. I run a 5500 with a 6-car trailer. A lot of people tell me, oh, it's dangerous. Oh, there's too much weight for the truck. But if anyone knows about trucking, knows these trucks were designed for this setup. I gross 45,000 pounds when loaded with 6 vehicles. I've been pulled over by DOT plenty of times. I've been brought into the scale house plenty of times, and I'm still running. You understand? So the truck is still going. Think about that. If this was such a dangerous thing, why would they leave this truck on the road? Why would I still be running this truck on the road? The advantage of running this setup, for those of you thinking to get out here, is one, I do a lot of mom and pop dealerships. A lot of dealerships that are hidden in little cities, you know. A lot of dealerships that I got to swing this trailer and back it off of 2-lane roads, 1 lane up, 1 lane down. So imagine trying to do that with a 9-car Stinger. I can't imagine trying to go to some of the places I go to on a day-to-day basis with a 9-car Stinger. Also, most of these places I haul for, they usually have 4 to 5 units. Why do I need the extra space on the trailer? You know, I have a 6-car, and a lot of the times I'm only hauling 5. Sometimes I'm hauling 3. Right now, I got 2 on the back. You know what I mean? So when I tell you guys that there's money to be made out here, being local, I'm no BS artist. I only speak from my perspective. You know, I did the container thing. That made me good money, and this was 3 years ago. I was making $1,000 a day doing that in 10 hours. You got what I'm saying? So a lot of you guys that are out there wondering, oh, well, if I want to make the money, I got to go over the road. I got to go state to state. That's where the big money is. No, you just got to get yourself established. You got to get these clients. You got to rub elbows with some people and get your name out there. Granted, it ain't easy, but once you're established and once you know where to go and who to talk to, you'll realize the local work is where it's at. You know, me, the way I run, I don't use a load board. Everything is straight from the source, straight from each dealerships. Like I said, it's a lot of small mom and pop dealerships that trust the company, trust what we do, and know we're going to get their cars to them when we say we're going to get them to them. So imagine you have 5, 6 small dealerships. You know, one guy is moving 3, and then the guy down the street from him is moving another 3. That's a run for me right there. A lot of guys with the 9-car Stingers, they're not going to want to move just 3 units for that guy. They want a truckload. Me, I do a lot of partials on my trailer. I do a lot of 3 here, 2 here, you know, like I'm doing right now. I'm dropping one at this dealership that I am now, dropping one at another dealership 10 minutes away, and then I'll drive another 10 minutes to go pick up a 6-pack, going back an hour and a half away. You know, it's all about the strategy and being flexible with these guys and putting yourself in a position that they kind of need you and that you can bend to what their needs are, and that keeps you loaded all day. Don't get me wrong, I do a lot of driving. You know, in my day, I'm doing about 280 to 450 miles worth of driving, doing a lot of walking, like I said, 10 miles plus a day, doing a lot of loading and unloading. Some guys might get triggered by this video saying, hey, no, you know what? I'm not into that. Once I load my trailer, I just want to drive for a while, drop those cars off, and I don't want to keep loading and unloading, loading and unloading. You know what I mean? But what you're not understanding is the money is in being physical, touching that freight. And honestly, I'd rather touch the freight and be physical at work as a CDL driver than sitting behind the wheel and just driving 1,800 miles over the course of 2-3 days, then waiting at a shipper for hours. You know, me, I don't wait around. Look, I have downtime right now to be able to drop this video. There's no waiting around for me. I get to actually drop these cars, drop the keys in the drop box. The only time I have to plan accordingly is for the pickups to make sure there's someone at these dealerships to give me the keys. In some cases, some of these dealerships already give you the keys ahead of time. Like for my pickup at the end of the day, I already have the keys. I can just go there and pick those cars up. I'm not at the mercy of any shipper, any receivers, you know what I mean? Some of you guys, you know, if you've been on the road for a while, you bump that dock, the guy will tell you, hey, go to dock number 1. You bump that dock, open your door, get that red light, get in the back of your sleeper berth, and it'll be 4, 5, sometimes even 9 hours before they either load you or unload you. And come on, that's time wasted. In that same time that you're sitting there waiting to get loaded, a guy like me, I've already grossed $1,000 for the day. You know, I've already did my runs for the day. And guess what? I'm going to be home in my bed with my family, enjoying downtime. So, again, you know, I had some time. I figured I'll shoot some information to you guys. You know, get in the comment section below. If you got any questions, you want me to touch on anything you feel like I could have gotten more in-depth more on in this video, reach out to me. And don't forget to like, share, comment. I'm an open book when it comes to this trucking thing. Because one, I love trucking. You know, it took some getting used to doing this smaller setup, but I'm getting to love it more and more each day. It's comfortable. Look, I'm leaned back. I got the big screen, the nice sound system. I can maneuver a lot better in certain places. You know, it's a little bit less stressful when driving. But, you know, I'm going to try to drop more videos. I asked you guys to get in that comment section too, to tell me what you want me to drop a video on. You know, I got the email. I'll help you guys out as much as I can, because I was helped when coming into trucking by other YouTube truckers. You know, watching a lot of their videos. I started out a year or two while in CDL school, watching guys' videos and just learning from them. And then it got me to where I am now. You know, not to make their mistakes. And then doing my mistakes, I'm able to give the next generation of trucking better advice based on the mistakes I've seen others make and the mistakes I've made. That way, we can all just get better and make the industry better. So, it's your boy D, the All-Star Transporter. I'm checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one.